Let's talk through my Infiltrator in a little bit more depth today. I'm going to cover everything that I believe is relevant and try my best to articulate it to the best of my ability. But if I do manage to miss something that you've been curious about, please don't hesitate to leave a comment with your question below. I'll be sure to answer it as soon as I see it. But before we jump into the first topic, I do want to say a big thank you to everyone who's subscribed and continuously supporting my channel. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the ongoing support. I'm really looking forward to bringing more content to you guys in the future, especially with the up and coming expansion. Let's start off with my skills and what's actually going on in the background. Let's start off with Healing Touch. Healing Touch is not used as a heal. This is purely a way that I buff my base damage. To break it down for you, my base damage is increased by utilizing two different mastery nodes. The first one is Archer Surge. Archer Surge can stack up 3 times and each stack is gained by using a longbow survival skill, e.g. Healing Touch. The second one is Rhythmical Shooting, which can stack up 5 times and each stack is gained by using a different skill. As an example, Healing Touch into Block or Venom or an attack skill. Each different skill gains 1 stack. Looking at my base damage, I want to demonstrate the actual increase. My current base damage buffed is 377 to 1020 from my original base value, which was 290 to 933. The base damage increase is extremely important in PvP, especially for a class like Infiltrator that doesn't have a lot of ranged defensive skills available. The skill Ensnaring Arrow does a lot more than just bind targets and keep melee at a range. It also acts as a massive damage boost. When paired with the passive Steady Aim, I gain an increase of 435 critical hit chance and a 20% critical damage increase against that target as it's bound. I do want to mention this buff is not present on my stat sheet, but it's only for the target that's actually bound for that set duration. So it's very critical. If you're hitting someone with Ensnaring Arrow, you could go Invis and then come out with Strafing, as Invis gives you a guaranteed critical hit chance and you can really capitalize on that critical hit damage. Now, Decisive Sniping is the strongest skill that Infiltrator has access to in terms of a single hit at range. Not only does this skill do insane amounts of damage, but it also gives me a critical hit chance increase from 200 to 400 after casting, which is reflective on my stat sheet. This skill also does 40% increased damage against shielded targets, so it's a great way to open up and rip away someone's shield and then follow up with a deadly marker. Decisive gets even better when you pair it with Blitz and run the spec Limit Break. A Limit Break Decisive Snipe puts a dot on your target for 3 seconds after the hit. That deals 150 to 450% of my base damage based on the charge time. Something you guys probably aren't aware of, Decisive Snipe's initial hit can be blocked, but if it's a Limit Break Decisive, your target will still receive the dot damage after the hit, even if they're blocking. Deadly Marker is another powerful ability that Infiltrator has access to, and it's normally a must run when fighting a static or a DPS with a pocket, as this skill acts as a shield cut and reduces the target's shield received by 80%, perfect to use straight after Decisive as I mentioned earlier. It increases my critical hit chance by 240 or 360 if it's a back attack, which would be guaranteed from smoke or straight after using Shadow Strike for 2 seconds. Deadly Marker also increases my hit chance by 240 directly on the target hit. This also can be increased by another 150 when selecting the hit chance increase skill spec. This hit chance buff also applies to all party members, acting as a great support skill during this current evade meta. The cooldown application doesn't really apply much in PvP, so it's not worth mentioning. Strafing is probably the most influential skill available in Infiltrator. As the primary burst range skill for all bow users and paired with Zephyr's Knock, it's honestly the standard when it comes to a quick range rotation. I personally use the Tevent Bow passive to enhance my strafing damage, and it's honestly a night and day difference comparison when not using it. Strafing also acts as another stat buff when utilizing the Master Node Bullseye Hunter. I can gain an extra 300 critical hit chance at max stacks, which does show up on my stat sheet, and to gain those stacks, all you have to do is strafing. Let's talk about rotations now. Infiltrator's got some pretty simple ones, but one doesn't fit all, and there are some requirements to use different opening rotations depending on engagement or the class that I'm targeting. I'll cover a few, and if you do have any questions, leave them down below and I'll respond to them when I see it. My Infiltrator's standard combo is Invis, Strafing, Zephyr's Knock. The reason that I Invis first is because I want to make sure the first hit coming out of Invis is a guaranteed critical hit. Because I'm pushing an incredibly high amount of crit damage, I want to make sure I capitalize on that as much as possible. This also goes hand in hand with the perfect block from the Dagger roll. It does the exact same thing, a guaranteed critical hit on your next attack. Keep Lightning Infusion or Venom up while maintaining Healing Touch stacks for my base damage buffs. Another basic combo is Ensnaring Arrow, Decisive Snipe, Strafing, Zephyrs. Keep in mind a person can block the entire combo while blinded. This is a high attack speed problem. Finally, if you're dealing with high evade targets, you can open up your Abyss Stone to reduce their evade when you hit them, into a Deadly Marker smokescreen, buffing your hit chance as much as possible. Then go into an Ensnaring Arrow, Decisive Snipe, Blitz reset your Decisive, as it may have missed, into Strafing, Zephyr's Knock, and then finally hit them with your Limit Break Decisive Snipe. This rotation will most likely be overkill, but if you're fighting a high evade user with a pocket healer, it'll definitely do the job. Lastly, I'm going to cover my individual gameplay. This has been the most requested aspect. I've been playing Infiltrator since tier 1, so I've played hundreds of hours just dueling at Castleton, Herber, getting a good understanding of my class. I've got well over 1,000 hours in PvP in general, be it open world, nighttime, battlegrounds, arena, siege, GVG, you name it. I've had a tremendous amount of time to just build up my confidence. I don't look at my skill bar. I have a strong battlefield and environmental awareness because of that fact, understanding what skills link well against majority of my targets. And to be quite honest, the most influence on my progression has been dueling at Castleton and Herber for this entire duration. It allowed me to understand what skills do what's effective, what's not, getting a deeper look into characters and what actions they actually make when they use certain CCs, which really helped build my confidence on my timing when I block. I don't really have a formula of the way I play and block, to be honest, but I generally know if I'm running around invis in the enemy's backlines and I go to attempt to burst someone, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get jumped by melee. So if I come out of invis with strafing, I will either roll halfway through the strafing or at the end of the strafing. And 85% of the time, I will get a perfect block, which gives me another window of opportunity to open up with another guaranteed critical hit on my target or a secondary target. I get asked why I jump around. And to be completely honest, it's what I find comfortable. It's like a flow state for me. It gives me a way to block and bait melee. I understand it's a little bit counterintuitive as I'm having to click an extra button on my controller, but it's what I find comfortable. And whatever works, right? Playing a glass infiltrator, I needed to understand, backpedaling. How do I utilize my range effectively? Repositioning, what can I do to bait people when I'm in close quarters? And I found that to be jumping. But repositioning is the most important thing. Blitz resetting your invis if you have to, doing whatever's required. Those are the things that you need to understand, especially when you're playing glass. I don't play Infiltrator to get the highest amount of damage or kills. I play this class because I enjoy it and strive to shut down statics, infiltrate backlines, and shut down high priority DPS. I want to play strategically, and this class excels at it, especially being a glass cannon and utilizing that high crit damage. Large scale, this class doesn't really excel. It doesn't have any big AoE impact. It just has major single target impact. So for me, I'm not going to be 400 kills plus in Siege. I'm going to be around 200, but I'm happy with that because it's all priority kills. This might be a bit of a hot take, but as of right now, I believe Infiltrator can only be built 2 ways to be effective on the battlefield. One is a full send glass cannon DPS, built purely to break enemy backlines, shut down priority DPS, and burst down statics. The second one is a full send support evade infiltrator with 0 damage, purely supporting their primary static. Everything else is just not worth it in my opinion. You might as well not play infiltrator. But it doesn't matter which way you decide out of those 2, this class is strong. That's it. I hope I covered everything and answered all your burning questions, but if I didn't, please don't hesitate to leave your questions below and I'll respond to them when I see it. If you did enjoy the video today, your support with a like would be greatly appreciated. I can't thank you all enough for your ongoing support. If you aren't already subscribed, remember, it's free and you can always unsubscribe in the future. Thanks for watching.